YouTube! I felt like singing it today. Spaz are coming right at you with another champion preview. Today we're taking a look at Kindred, or Lamb, and Wolf. What do they call the eternal spirits, hunters, something like that. Primarily set to be like a jungling marksman, which is, you know, interesting to say the least. There's a lot of cool new abilities and tricks with this one. And like with every preview, my job here is to sort of like explain these abilities as simply as possible to you guys, as straightforward as I can, so you get a grasp of how this character works before it comes out. Remember, it's PvE, some things might change, and with that said, let's dive right into it. Let's start talking about the passive. It's called Mark of the Kindred. So first, the straightforward bit. This passive will mark different targets on the map, and if you get a kill or assist on that target, you will permanently gain a percentage of their current health as bonus physical damage. And this has no cap, so this is like a very big scaling thing that both you and your team should be structured to play around in order to make sure that Kindred gets to the late game she or he or it needs. Is it it? Let's go with it. So how do you get a marked target? Well, you can choose to actively mark one of the enemy champions by clicking on the little hotbar that you can sort of toggle underneath the passive. You don't have to be near them, you don't have to do anything like that. You can just click them and they're marked. The person that you've marked will see the mark, so they'll know that you marked them. There is a pretty long cooldown to switch marks. I think it felt like a minute or so. And after you've killed that marked target, there is a 4-minute cooldown until you can mark and kill that target again. And that means that you can't, you know, snowball off of a single lane. Let's say you kill the top laner, you can't just go straight back up there because the summoners are down and just keep killing them to rack up that bonus damage. That is how you killed marked champions in order to get the bonus AD. Now you can also do it on jungling monsters. Here, however, you do not choose. It randomly selects a camp in the enemy jungle, or if you're lucky, the scuttle crab, that you can go to kill in order to proc this passive. I think even if that camp is killed by the jungler, the mark will stay, so you can just go back there when it respawns. Important to note here is that the enemy team will also see on the minimap where your current marked monster is. So they really want this to become sort of a mini objective to create fights around. And this passive has a lot of late game scaling, which is, you know, what you'll need as an ADC in the jungle to hit that late game. And a part of winning the game versus Kindred is going to be to not allow it to get to that late game. So this sort of like makes sense from a design standpoint, and it's very interesting to say the least. One final very important note is that I noticed that the jungling monsters stopped being marked after a certain point in the game. I read somewhere that it was like around 6 stacks or something of the passive. So once you get to mid or late game, you're gonna get the stacks from killing champions. Whew. And that said, let's move on to the little bit more straightforward ability, the Q. It is called Dance of Arrows. It is a small utility spell where you jump and fire 3 arrows at nearby enemies. From my experience, it doesn't prioritize champions. It deals physical damage, and if you cast your W, the cooldown of this